nhliberty.org. nhliberty.org.
This is Dave Ridley signing in for RidleyReport.com this 18th of December, 2007, with a general roundup of liberty news and opinion in New Hampshire. Most of the opinion
Had some thoughts regarding the Ron Paul campaign, and really, I guess, more some thoughts regarding the possibility of a Ron Paul presidency. A lot of folks, maybe non-libertarian folks, have expressed concern that a Ron Paul presidency would mean that the United States would become weaker militarily.
Well, as a person who's a former conservative, very pro-military traditionally, very anti-communist, very much in favor of us winning the wars we've fought, I'd like to address that concern. I'm thinking, wouldn't a much more effective defense of the United States, the American people, be possible if we, the people, did it instead of the government? For those of you who are neoconservatives, or conservatives who really like the idea of dead terrorists, as I do, is Ron Paul really an obstacle to that, or could he potentially be an enabler of that? Simply by getting out of the way of the American people in pretty much all matters, as he seems to be interested in doing.
If Dr. Paul becomes president, I have a feeling there will be a lot less standing between the American people and their own defense.
nhliberty.org. nhliberty.org.
You and I and the private institutions that make America great will be free to defend ourselves. At least, that's my theory, but I haven't heard the concept talked about very much, and I guess that's why I'm bringing it up. I'm wondering, would Dr. Paul stop Americans from doing what Cantor Fitzgerald allegedly tried to do during the months after 9/11? Fox News reported in 2001 that Cantor Fitzgerald
was forming a mercenary force to go after the terrorists that killed its employees at the World Trade Center. But right from the get-go, Pentagon officials tried to talk them out of it. Again, that's according to a Fox News report from 2001.
What I'm wondering is, would Dr. Paul get out of the way in circumstances like that, where the Bush administration allegedly interfered? And for that matter, would Dr. Paul get out of the way of immigration control groups like the Minutemen on the Texas and Arizona border?
If, in fact, Dr. Paul is planning on getting out of the way, as I suspect he is, because of his history of strictly limiting the idea of what Washington can do, if Dr. Paul were to stand aside, that would in one stroke free the American people to start solving some of the problems that are on their minds. With a reduction in taxation and perhaps a reduction of government's control over people doing military-type things, a whole new world of opportunity could open up for Americans who are concerned with America's security. They could do what Americans do best. They could take matters into their own hands. If you're concerned with the crisis in Darfur, and you want to send weapons to help the people who are being slaughtered, would Ron Paul allow the government to stop you? I doubt it. If you want to patrol the border between Arizona and Mexico with a bunch of friends who are packing heat, would Ron Paul call the president of Mexico and give out the location of your patrol? The way George Bush allegedly did? I doubt it. Would Ron Paul stop a company like Cantor Fitzgerald from trying to avenge the deaths of their fellow Americans? I doubt it.
Would Ron Paul be better for the economy than the other presidents, thus enabling Americans to have enough surplus money so that they could become involved in defending America themselves? I think yes.
If nothing else, hopefully Dr. Paul will at least stop the hemorrhaging of the dollar and mitigate the possible calamity that seems to be coming down our throats economically. Keeping the U.S. economy strong is a prerequisite for having a strong defense that lasts.
Anyhow, those are my thoughts as a former conservative, and in some ways someone who still is a conservative. I'm a guy who has Charles Krauthammer's autograph in a frame, after all.
Maybe security voters should take a second look at Ron Paul and ask themselves whether they really trust the government with their security or the American people. Well, so much for my roundup of New Hampshire news. That turned into just an opinion fest, but I hope you enjoyed it. This is Dave Ridley from RidleyReport.com, signing off from Manchester, New Hampshire.
Hello, I'm Rosie the Riveter. Sort of. You may remember me from...
NHFree.com.
But now, I spend most of my time on the new political forum at...
NHLiberty.org. NHLiberty.org.
It's a place where all peaceful discussion is welcome.
NHLiberty.org.
Is the fastest growing political forum in New Hampshire.
NHLiberty.org.
Has lots of nice people. NH Liberty is where you want to be.
NHLiberty.org.